furious world leaders are turning their back on Donald Trump and doing so in public as Donald Trump says he's ready to go to war. Donald Trump says he's going to attack Iran soon if they don't make a deal with him. Donald Trump saying he's sending an armada that's going to attack Iran, but Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and others are saying, well, if you attack Iran, we're not going to let you use our airspace this time. Sorry, Donald, we don't got your back. We're turning our back on you. Also, you take a look in Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez has put out some statements over the past 48 hours saying that she does not want to be a puppet of the Trump regime and the United States. Also, Donald Trump's buddy, if you will, in Syria, al-Jilani, who now goes by al-Sharar, the leader of Syria, well, he's been hanging out with Vladimir Putin to make sure the alliance between Syria and Russia, between al-Jilani and Putin, is strong, giving a middle finger to the Trump regime in theory, although Donald Trump's a Putin bootlicker, so even though that goes against the interest of the United States, obviously, maybe Donald Trump likes it that Jilani and Putin are very close buddies. Also, you've got Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who's been kind of hanging in there with Donald Trump, even though I think a lot of us are like, hey, Keir Starmer, you do realize that Donald Trump has defamed the legacy of UK troops and other troops in NATO who were on the front lines fighting with the United States in Afghanistan after the United States invoked Article 5. How do you think about that, Keir Starmer? Keir Starmer said, well, we're still strong allies with the United States. Well, what's really going on, though, is Keir Starmer just took a state visit to China to extend that relationship, and he's there meeting with Xi Jinping. And of course, that follows Prime Minister Carney of Canada meeting with Xi Jinping about 3 weeks ago or so, and China and Canada making that $1 trillion trade pact, which now Donald Trump says, well, I'm going to impose 100% tariffs on Canada as a result of that. Also, Canada's response, Prime Minister Carney was so great about this. He said, when I called Donald Trump, I told him we stand on business in Canada. I meant everything I said in Davos, Switzerland, where I criticized the United States and I said Canada has moved on. Their relationship has been irreparably ruptured. I mean what I say, Donald. And yeah, maybe Canada and America still does some trade, but we've moved on. We don't see a difference, actually. If anything, we see China as a more reliable trade partner. And then what Carney just did over the past 48 hours, as Donald Trump's been attacking South Korea, this is what makes Carney so brilliant, is that whenever Donald Trump goes and attacks another country, Carney's right there, kind of swoops in and shows support for that country. So Donald Trump over the past 48 hours has been attacking South Korea and says, as a result of South Korea's legislature not ratifying some made-up fake trade deal that Donald Trump talks about, we are imposing massive new tariffs on South Korea. Well, Prime Minister Carney's like, bet. Okay, well then Canada will forge stronger relationships with South Korea. Let's help bring South Korea auto manufacturing into Canada, and let's figure out how we improve our military in Canada using materials from South Korea. Let's expand that relationship, and don't even get me started on the European Union's mother of all trade deals, as the president of the European Union Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, puts it, with India. Donald Trump attacks India. Donald Trump attacks EU. EU meet India. They enter into a massive free trade agreement, and the US is cut out of all of this because Donald Trump is a deranged maniac who is making the United States weaker and weaker. As Professor Justin Wolfers, University of Michigan professor, and someone who I've become friendly with lately, told me, he goes, Ben, you can't evaluate the American economy based on one quarter or even a year. He goes, the irreparable damage that Donald Trump is causing to the United States economy by allowing all these other countries in the world to forge stronger relationships. And the US economy, which was once the envy of the world, Trump's doing everything he can to basically destroy that right now. And it's absolutely happening before our eyes. And, this doesn't get enough attention because, there's so much to cover, right? And our corporate news is so busy kind of gamifying things. Oh, what do you think about that? What do you think about this? Who's up? Who's behind? Look systemically at what is taking place right here. So Donald Trump's buddy, MBS, right? Donald Trump and MBS are tight as thieves. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the kingdom's de facto leader, told the Iranian president during a call on Tuesday that Saudi Arabia would not allow its airspace or territory to be used by the United States for an attack against Iran, following a similar statement issued this week by the United Arab Emirates, the UAE. That's, some serious stuff right there. As I mentioned earlier in this video, Venezuela's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, says that she's had enough of the orders from Washington, as White House is saying it's maintaining its pressure. Delcy Rodriguez says, let Venezuelan politics resolve our differences and internal conflicts. Enough foreign powers get away. To which Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, who had that awful appearance on Capitol Hill, I covered it as he was grilled in the United States Senate by those aggressive cross-examinations, and he was like chugging the water. That's what he does when he gets nervous. Marco Rubio said, well, I guess we may need to utilize force. Maybe we got to do some more military actions against Venezuela. So I guess things are going swimmingly well right there. Then in Moscow, the Syrian president, al-Shara, who used to go by al-Jilani when he was the leader of al-Qaeda. That's the guy who Donald Trump sprayed the perfume on and sniffed and went, oh, you smell so good, Jilani. Remember Donald Trump sniffed the guy in the Oval Office? Well, Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara arrived in Moscow on January 28th, talking with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin is seeking to strengthen ties with the new leadership in Damascus. Meanwhile, AFP reported in October that al-Shara would ask Putin to hand over Assad, who currently lives in Russia. This follows the Syrian forces attacking and destroying and killing the Kurdish Syrian Democratic Forces in the northern Syrian region. Donald Trump utterly betraying our Kurdish allies who helped us fight ISIS, and then being repaid by al-Jilani by going to Russia and forging stronger deals with Russia than the United States. Hey, great work, Donald. Wonderful, wonderful job. So utterly pathetic, so utterly stupid. But here's what Donald Trump said 2 days ago or so when he said, I had a great conversation with al-Jilani. Very respected, very respected. Okay, as al-Jilani goes to meet with Putin. Here, play this clip.
I had a great conversation with the highly respected president of Syria, and all of the things having to do with Syria and that area working out very, very well. So we're very happy about it.
Meanwhile, as I mentioned before, Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the UK touched down in China. He said, I'm here to deliver for the British people. And he said it's in our national interest to engage with China, the first visit by a UK leader to China in 8 years. And clearly this is in response to the United States isolating itself, attacking the world, and the United States becoming a very unpredictable, arbitrary, capricious, reckless, malicious actor. Take a listen to what Keir Starmer has to say.
8 days is a long time in politics. Try 8 years, because it's 8 years since a British Prime Minister stepped on Chinese soil. And so on this delegation, you're making history. You're part of the change that we're bringing about. And that's consistent with everything that we've done in government, particularly internationally, because we are resolute about being outward-looking, about taking opportunities, building relationships, having confidence globally, and always being absolutely focused on our national interest. And it is in our national interest to engage with China. It's the second biggest economy in the world. If you take Hong Kong alongside China, it's our third biggest trading partner. There are huge opportunities to be had in lots of different sectors.
The world may feel like it's metaphorically on fire right now, but we also have to make sure we keep highlighting one truly existential issue that still isn't getting enough attention, and that's climate change. Because this is no longer about the distant future. This is urgent, and it's happening right now. A major new report warns that the environmental crisis is arriving decades earlier than scientists once expected. I want to highlight this new article in The Independent. It's called "Climate Change is Here. Experts Warn Environmental Crisis is Decades Ahead of Forecasts." Be sure to check this out. So according to experts, the extreme events we were once told to expect in the 2050s and beyond are already here. Last year was the third hottest year on record, and the World Meteorological Organization says that 2025 has continued a run of extraordinary global temperatures. The EU now warns that the Paris Agreement's 1.5-degree threshold could be broken before 2030. Samantha Burgess of the Copernicus Climate Change Service put it bluntly. She said climate change is here, and we're seeing events today that models once predicted for the middle of the century. The oceans absorbed more heat in 2025 than any year in modern records. We've seen an increase in wildfires. The Atlantic saw 3 Category 5 hurricanes in a single year, including Hurricane Melissa, which intensified rapidly because of warmer seas, leaving communities with little time to respond. Research from the Grantham Institute shows that climate change has tripled heat-related deaths during European heat waves. In the global south, the impacts are even more devastating and often underreported, with deadly floods in Pakistan and severe drought across East Africa. The International Federation of the Red Cross warns that these disasters are piling on top of existing crises, pushing vulnerable communities to the brink. And even in what insurers like Swiss Re call a, quote, quiet year, economic losses still approached historic averages. These are not normal conditions. I want to be clear about this. This is the reality of climate change now. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Make it clear that you care about these issues, because we're going to keep covering them, and we're not looking away. Okay, Ben, back to you.
Now, moving over to Canada. Prime Minister Carney, of course, took that visit to China 3 or so weeks ago. And Prime Minister Carney said the following about, this is what he said the other day when he was touring Canada to talk about affordability. Here's what he had to say about Donald Trump attacking NATO troops. Donald Trump said that other NATO troops never helped the United States, that they never were on the front lines with the United States in Afghanistan when they were, and they lost lives. Canadian troops were killed. All NATO troops were killed. Denmark, by the way, had the most soldiers killed per capita, but massive casualties in the UK, France, and elsewhere. Here's what Prime Minister Carney had to say. Play this clip.
Let me be absolutely clear. With respect to the contribution, what everyone should recognize, Canadians recognize, and we are fundamentally grateful for the extraordinary contributions of the men and women of the Canadian Armed Forces in a variety of theaters, including very much Afghanistan. We were the first to invoke Article 5. We were the first to send support after 9/11 to New York City. We sent 40,000 Canadian troops serving over 13 years on the front lines in Afghanistan. In Kandahar, as one example, 158 of those soldiers paid the ultimate sacrifice. One of our diplomats paid the ultimate sacrifice. Thousands more were injured. 30 of our soldiers won the American Bronze Star for service in combat, for courage in combat. It's an extraordinary contribution for liberty, for freedom, for human rights, defending the United States, defending Canadian values. Everyone should recognize that. All Canadians are in their debt.
And I did mention Delcy Rodriguez, who Donald Trump has propped up there, because Donald Trump has his secret Qatari bank accounts, not so secret, we know about it now, where he takes some of the oil money that he forces Delcy to sell for him to right-wing oligarch buds of his. He takes the proceeds, he sticks it in a Qatari bank account that he controls and that Congress doesn't have oversight over. That's not lawful, but that's what he does. In any event, you have Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, who had to hand over the physical medal for her Nobel Peace Prize to Donald Trump to feed his ego, only for him to further say that she has no respect from the people of Venezuela, even though her party won the election in July 2024 with basically 70% of the vote. Here's what she had to say yesterday, that no one has faith in Delcy Rodriguez. What do you mean no one has? Donald Trump literally said he has faith in Delcy Rodriguez, as Delcy Rodriguez was saying that she wants Donald Trump to get the hell out of Venezuela. Do we see what a mess Donald Trump's creating? This is Machado. Here's what she has to say. Play this clip.
Are they putting too much faith in Delcy Rodriguez, this administration?
I think no one has faith in Delcy Rodriguez. What she is she has run out of options. Everybody knows what this regime is all about. We're talking about criminals. They have killed people intentionally. They had made a third of our population leave our country and flee. They have designed the most criminal torture and repressive system in history in this hemisphere. This is state terrorism, and she's an essential part of it, of the corruption, of the narco trafficking, of the repressive system. Nobody has faith on her. It's a matter of incentives. And those are the ones that's being displayed today. No naivety at this point. Everybody knows who's who in Venezuela nowadays.
More from Prime Minister Carney. Can we just show you how it's done in the Canadian Parliament right here? Watch Prime Minister Carney lay down the law, delivering a smackdown to Pierre Poilievre, Maple MAGA boy. Play this clip.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, before I had lunch with the Premier of Ontario, I had a long meeting with the Premier of Ontario. I would like to introduce the Leader of the Opposition to the Premier of Ontario so we can learn something about cooperation, cooperation on housing, cooperation on building the best auto sector in the world, cooperation on good jobs for Ontarians and Canadians, cooperations on rising wages, which have risen faster than inflation every single month of the year.
More from Prime Minister Carney in Parliament. Let's play this clip right here.
Mr. Speaker, part of how we move this country forward is collaborating with provinces and territories. The great territory of Nunavut. I'd like to welcome the Premier of Nunavut is here. One thing we've done in 6 months is agree on Grays Bay Point, which is going to open up Arctic sovereignty, open up the future of this country, make Canada strong.
All of this is taking place. The latest Mar-a-Lago bash is happening. Showgirls, champagne hours after more ICE killings. They're doing champagne bashes at Mar-a-Lago. Meanwhile, Ottawa and Seoul, as I mentioned before, South Korea, agree to work on bringing South Korean auto manufacturing jobs to Ottawa, to Canada. South Korean submarine maker Hanwha signed a big deal with Algoma Steel. They're utilizing each other's resources. Significant stuff right there. And all the while this is happening, the dollar is collapsing. Dollar's collapsing. As Reuters writes, Trump says value of the dollar is great, while the currency hits a 4-year low. As Carl Quintanilla said, these headlines write themselves. Meanwhile, German firms target China investments, driven to an all-time high or 4-year high. German business in China right now. More significantly, as the Washington Post reports, clamor is growing in Europe to boycott Trump's World Cup. This summer's North American World Cup is inextricably tied to Donald Trump. Some of his critics are questioning the fitness of the U.S. as a host. What we are seeing domestically hardly encourages fans to go there. Upon arrival, fans should expect that if they don't behave properly with the authorities, they will immediately be sent home or perhaps put in concentration camps by the Trump Gestapo. Meanwhile, just to let you know what's going on with the potential invasion of Iran any moment right now, Donald Trump is weighing a new round of strikes in Iran, but Donald Trump is telling people that he wants it to be quick and clean and easy and happen immediately, is what he's saying. And Al-Shamkhani, the senior political advisor to Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, has said that any idea of a limited strike against Iran is an illusion, stating that any military action by the United States from any origin and at any level will be considered the beginning of war, and its response will be immediate, all-out, unprecedented targeting the heart of Tel Aviv and all supporters of the aggressor, Israel and the United States right there. 2 more data points, more troops from Denmark heading to Greenland. Also, Canada sent naval patrol vessels to Greenland when it opened up its new consulate there in Greenland. Canada opens up a consulate in Greenland. The United States, you saw the video I did yesterday about this. The United States Gestapo, ICE Gestapo, try to invade the consulate of Ecuador to kidnap Ecuadorians inside the consulate, a violation of the Vienna Conventions on Consular Relations from 1963. Horrible stuff from this regime. Hit subscribe, help us get to 6 million subscribers. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.